marks the beginning of my program, Gilbert Talks Taxes, because as we all know, taxation with representation has not been such a good idea either. Good morning, everyone, on this 30th day of September, the last day of the month today, and I want to welcome everybody listening. Those of you live streaming, www.wcab59.com, good morning. I am looking very dapper today in my, now normally I wear vintage clothes, you know, Tom. It's really not that I collect vintage clothes, I'm just old enough that all my clothes has become vintage. That's how that happens.
Long enough, it comes back in style.
It comes, not only does it come back in style, I've had young people say, "Where did you get that?" That's nice. I'm like, I don't remember. It was it was a long time ago. But this is brand new. I have my Nordstroms. My friend Josh picked that up for me. Got little blue paisleys in it. So those of you live streaming us here in the blue room, you can see live my engineer this morning, the ever cheerful Tom. Good to have you, Tom. Good to have you. Glad to see you're cheerful as ever. And those of you that pick this up later on my website, gilberttalkstaxes.com, somebody told me that I should do a podcast, but Emily told me we already have a podcast. It's on my website, and I actually have people that listen to it. And it's really, it's interesting. It's interesting because you have all these young people that want to be famous. They want to be internet famous. Well, Tom and I were just having a whole conversation about, retiring and retirement age, and how the retirement age is now, full retirement age is now 67. But let me start the conversation with, my grandfather used to say, never retire, it'll kill you. Of course, he was the generation that came when the first retirement age was implemented. He remembered when they said, okay, you got to retire at 65. And companies back then actually retired you, whether you wanted to or not. You're done. On your birthday, you're gone. 65 years old, you leave. Today, that's like not even, there are people that are 65 that are, excellent health, working, doing, going. So it's a different time. But back then, 65, I remember Grandpa saying, yeah, if you live that long, you might collect some Social Security, because those people worked. Those people knew what an 8-hour day. Oh, so you worked a short day today. You were only there 8 hours. What did you do the rest of the time? But that was a whole other generation. And then we talked about, here in the county, the WAP programs. Those were the work programs. Right at the end of today we know, the beginning, the middle, and the end of the Depression. But in the 30s and the 40s, they didn't know. And I've talked about this on the program. It's Gilbert Talks Taxes, but we talk a little bit of everything here. I talked on the program. Nobody after Black Friday and Black Thursday and Black Monday, and it's always black. It was never any other color. After those days when the stock market crashed and all these things happened, nobody woke up the day after Black Friday and said, oh, we just had a depression. Today we have computers that can crunch those numbers that fast and say, hey, what just happened 24 hours ago was bad. Back then they didn't have that. It took them years to realize, remember that thing that happened back in 1929? That was not a good thing. And it was like that kind of a thing. So today we know, beginning, middle, end. They didn't know if there was ever going to be an end. They knew things were bad. They just kept going forward. But one of the solutions to the Depression and all the people that were out of work and all the businesses that I closed was for government spending. It didn't work then. It doesn't work now. It put a lot of people to work, but it was temporary. A lot of good did come out of it. We have projects that came out of WP. A lot of dams were built across the country. A lot of hydroelectric plants were built. Right here, we had a lot of things happen right in this county. Right over on Doggett Road, there's a big, well, it looks like a pond now, but at the time, I'm sure it was bigger. They built a berm, they channeled a spring, they created a small lake on somebody's property and a stream downhill, and just little projects like that, but it kept a lot of people working. So we were talking about that, and those people knew work. And when you hear these internet influencers today, and these people that want to be internet famous complain about having to sit at a keyboard for 8 hours a day. They literally are. For people that don't understand how this works, this is Gilbert Talks Technology. For people to understand how this works, so you have these websites, Twitch, and they've all got these names, right? And this goes beyond like, Instagram famous. There's all these other websites, Twitch, and I can go on, where these gamers actually sit and play video games all day. That's their job. Now what they're doing is they're live streaming while they're doing it, and they have followers that, I guess because they're all sitting at a keyboard, have nothing else to do, and they follow these people. And the more people follow you, the more the platform pays you from revenue. So they actually get money for just being on the internet. Well, they're not complaining because they have to sit at the keyboard 8 hours a day. They have to work, so depending on the contract and the level of engagement that you do, some of these people have to by contract, have to live stream for 40 hours, 50 hours, 60 hours a week. But that, to me, in my world, that's called a job. It's actually a job. You actually do a job. Now, whatever that job is, we can argue that, that produces nothing and it's really kind of insignificant. Well, no, to some people that has value. It's this conversation when we talk about this, and I say, well, what about a jockey that rides a horse? I mean, he gets 10% of the winnings of the horse. There are jockeys that make millions of dollars every year. You could argue that that's pretty not important job, yet they make a lot of money doing it. So that's not the point I want to argue. The point I want to argue is the definition of work. And this generation, just what is work, is a whole. It's so confusing, and they're just very confused. We have a very confused generation. And my heart really goes out to them because they're very confused. And listen, I'm not saying we had it all figured out, but the grasp on reality, there's definitely a dividing line. I call it pre-internet and post-internet, and the thinking. There's a post-internet generation, and I'm not just talking about the creation of the internet, which actually the creation of the internet started back in the 80s, but I'm talking about when it just all these platforms, and anybody with Wi-Fi and a password and an account, anybody, basically all you need is an email address, can open up an account on these platforms and start streaming. And there's a whole mentality it's changed it. And is it good, is it bad? I don't know. It's just different. But we talked about because of those WAP programs, Roosevelt, and you told me you're about the third or fourth person that's told me this. President Roosevelt actually came to Rutherford County. I want to know what year that was. Simple Google search might tell me.
I would think in the 30s, but I'm just guessing.
Well, he was president for so long.
Yeah.
I can't find anything right away. I'm going to look this up, and I'm going to find it. 1933 is when Civilian Conservation Corps, which was the people that did the work for a lot. Oh, you remember that? A lot of work. That's when that was started. So it had to have been after that. But I've heard it from 3 or 4 people, and actually one lady told me that her mother actually saw him speak or at a dinner up in Lake Lure at the Lake Lure Inn. And that's where he came. He came through the county to see WAP projects. So, yeah, that was a big deal, folks. 1934, 1933, that was a big deal to have him come here. It'd be a big deal today, but to have him come here. So how did we get off on this subject? Gilbert talks a little bit of everything. Well, we were talking about retirement, and retirement is a big topic. It's a lot of what I do, retirement planning, talking to people that are getting ready to retire, talking to people that are just in retirement, talking about people that are actually one of the topics I wanted to talk about today. And I had that as number 3 on my list, but let me go ahead and put it at the top. Selling your business. Selling your business going into retirement, or you're in retirement and you want to sell your business. So many people come to me and they come to me after the horse has already been let out. They've already sold their business. It's too late. There's nothing I can do at that point. I had somebody come, they sold a business. They sold a business for $1.7 million. And they went to their accountant to get their taxes done, And the guy told him, oh, by the way, next year you're going to owe about $450,000, $60,000 in taxes. Well, and then so he comes to me, calls me up, makes an appointment, comes to see me, and he says, well, what can we do now? And I'm like, well, there's not much you can do now. You should have called me about 2 weeks before closing. You know, we could have at least, I mean, that's pushing it. There are strategies, there are things, and when I say strategies, there are legal things you can do that are within the tax code. You remember when Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were debating, and Hillary Clinton, this totally backfired on her. She wanted to make an issue about Donald Trump never paying taxes or not paying taxes. He does pay, of course he pays taxes. I mean, what he pays in New York State taxes for his buildings and property taxes is unbelievable. But she's trying to drive the point home to working class people, you know, America, right? The other 47%, the rest of us. She's trying to drive the point home that he's a rich guy that doesn't pay any taxes. You know, he's a rich white guy that doesn't pay taxes, because, you know, throw that in there, right? Except she's a rich white woman that doesn't pay taxes either. So it was the kettle calling the pot black. But she said to him, he doesn't pay taxes, and he turns around and she tried to call him a criminal or whatever, and he said, no, I'm smart because I use the tax code. And then he said to her, if you don't like the tax code, change it. But you're not going to, because you and your friends use the tax code to not pay taxes also. He said that to her right there on live television, and everybody went, wow, an honest politician. Somebody who tells the truth. That is the truth. And they never say it. There's a tax code, and there are things in the tax code that you can do. Is it going to get rid of your tax? Is it going to be that you don't pay? Because people say to me, well, how is it that, you know, these people don't pay any taxes? Well, they do pay taxes. But there are strategies, but you've got to implement them before, and you have to, there are things you can do. Again, all within tax code. Section 331 is one of them. It's very complicated, but it can be done. Now, and I can get into a whole bunch of them. The point isn't that, you know, that's what you should do or what you can do. I'm sorry, the point isn't that's what you should do, but it's something you can do. If you're thinking about selling your business, you're going into retirement, get some help, get some good help before the fact, and talk to more than one person. There are multiple ideas, even people that are clients of mine. You know, I have one take. Maybe there's others. Fortunately, we are in an internet age, and there's a lot of things you can look up yourself, and you can at least get a feel for it. But there are things to do. Don't just take it at face value that, you got to pay this capital gains tax. And again, for the man with the $1.7 million, I'm having a hard time feeling sorry for him because he's got $1.7 million. You know, and he doesn't want to pay taxes on it, and I get it. I mean, I don't want to give the government a penny more than I have to either, and that is what I do. That's my job all day, is to figure out how to make that happen. But sometimes you just get painted into a corner, and there's only so much I can do. There's only so much anybody can do. Selling your business is a complicated thing, depending on the level of your business. How do you sell your business? Do you just liquidate? Do you just give your assets to somebody else, sign them all over? Do you just turn your stock over? If it's an LLC and Inc., do you just turn the stock over and have everything go over to them? Or is it a complete liquidation where the client base just moves over? Is it the client base? Are you retaining any rights? These are things that when we have that conversation, we talk about it. I'm going to, let me get back, Tom. I haven't even given my information. It's all your fault, Tom. You start talking to me, and then I get going. See, by the time I get on the air, Tom and I have already been going for about 10 minutes. Yeah. We were already having Gilbert Talks Taxes. So my name is Gilbert Carmona. I am an enrolled agent. How can I talk for the last 16 minutes about taxes like that? Because I'm an enrolled agent. My power comes from the Internal Revenue Service. I am permitted to practice before them. I represent you, the taxpayer. I prepare tax returns. That's what I do. And I help businesses. I also do investments. And I do your financial life. And why do tax returns and investments go together? Because every investment decision is a tax decision. There's a tax implication to every investment. And really, we're in an era where there's a tax implication to everything you do. I mean, literally everything. You know, I've said it with carbon tax. They want to implement a carbon tax, Tom. You ever heard of that? A carbon tax. Yeah, they figured out the way to tax the air you breathe. That's how I see a carbon tax. I'm sorry, but that's how I see it. So every decision is a tax decision, and I can help you with those decisions. I can do your tax returns for you. My telephone number is 828-289-9300. That's 828-289-9300. I have 2 offices, 704 Oak Street in Forest City, right next to Big Dave's Fish Camp. And in Tryon, I am at 226 South Trade Street. The beautiful, Tom, the beautiful Art Deco building right off the historic downtown Tryon. And there's some remodeling work and stuff going on down there, too. There's a developer that's fixing up the old BOA building. I'm excited to see what's going to happen there. So there is some work going on in downtown Tryon. It's funny, I've got pictures on my wall of Tryon, talk about the 30s and the 40s. I've got pictures on my wall of Tryon from 1944, 1946. It looks almost the same. It's the cars. The cars are the only thing different. The windows even look the same. I'm like, they haven't changed those windows in almost 100 years. Yeah, it's a great place. I really like it. 226 South Trade Street. But one phone call gets you an appointment at either office, and that is 828-289-9300. And some people have asked about our prices. And I don't mind discussing our prices. Our basic tax return starts at $150. So we try to be very low cost. And that is complete. That's all in. That's state returns, that's electronic filing, that's if you're getting a refund that we can set up direct deposit for you. If you owe money, we can set up automatic withdrawal, and that's all included in the package. Business returns start at $300. Now, business returns, we say start at $300 because business returns can go north very fast. It just depends the complexity of it. Worked on one yesterday that's right at about 102 pages. Yeah, that was a big one. That was a big, talk about some financial strategies. There were some financial strategies in that one. Took about a month of work and just a lot of detail, just a lot of little minuscule number crunching going on there. But we got that done and turned over to the client. Tom, let's go ahead and take a quick break. I'm going to come back and talk about deadlines, and I'm going to give my inflation warning again. We're going to talk about inflation and what I think is going to happen. Talked about it last week. Going to talk about it this week. Inflation, I think, is going to impact, not in a good way, people's tax refunds this coming year, and I think it's going to just blindside people. That's just my opinion. Yeah, and I'm going to talk about the new tax charts for 24 are out. Going to get into a little bit of that. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes, WCAB, AM 590, FM 100.9.
Hi, I'm Dr. Gordon Christensen, and if you're a dentist as I am, or you know a dentist, please take a moment to listen. When I became a dentist, I learned how quickly poor oral health can lead to other serious health problems. And for people without access to care, these problems can spiral very quickly. I wanted to help, but I wasn't sure how I could until I joined Dental Lifeline Network. It's a nonprofit that has helped us literally change the lives of people in our communities. DLN asks dentists to volunteer to see just one of the many patients in need in your area. It's very simple. DLN screens those in need and coordinates an initial appointment that takes place in the comfort of the dentist's own office and on their schedule. Right now, there's a wait list for patients in need in your community. I'm asking fellow dentists who will join me in seeing one patient per year.
Learn more about Dental Lifeline Network at willyouseeone.org. That's willyouseeone.org.
Has your child swallowed your medicine, your laundry detergent, your nail polish remover? Call the Poison Helpline. Have you inhaled paint thinner, glue, pesticides? Call the Poison Helpline. Have a question about a dose, a fume, something your kid just drank? Call the Poison Helpline. Poisonings can happen at the home, on the job, or in the great outdoors. Call the Poison Helpline first for fast, free advice from medical professionals. Call 1-800-222-1222 anytime, anywhere. 1-800-222-1222. Save the number, save a life. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
They really need
Why
to.
would you not?
Oh,
Listen to Gilbert Talks Tax.
I don't know. You know, we had the GOP dinner last night. A little side note here with the GOP dinner, and so many people there. And Jim was the MC,
Yep.
and so many people came up to me because I was the maitre d', as I am every year. I was the maitre. Yeah, Jim's the MC. I told Jim, I said, we've got job security, okay? I'm the except we volunteer. I am the maitre d', and I had quite a few people come up to me and tell me, I listened to you on the radio. I listened to you on the radio. So those of you that said hi to me last night, I'm saying hi back to you this morning. Okay, so so I've had this question from some of the other people involved with this enterprise,
Yep.
and I told them that they're doing it wrong. The question is, they are a South Carolina enterprise, and they withheld your tax money for South Carolina.
Yes.
So this coming year, you're going to have to file a North Carolina and a South Carolina tax return to get that money back, which is wrong. They're supposed to tax. We're talking about withholding here, by the way. For those of you listening, this is withholding. So the company is in South Carolina. They took out your withholding and sent it to the state of South Carolina. But you never worked in South Carolina. As a matter of fact, Todd, I don't think you ever even stepped foot in South Carolina.
Well, I've been there.
You've been there, yeah, years ago, but not recently. You don't leave Rutherford County.
Does the Krispy Kreme donut shop count?
Does-
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh,
okay, so you've
Try to
been.
get away from those.
No, well, we need to. So there needs to be like an annex, you know, like a red line that goes all the way down to the Krispy Kreme and then comes back.
Comes back.
Yeah, we need to incorporate them as part of North Carolina.
I don't eat as many as I used to.
Did you hear Tom talking about grannies? And he goes, this donut, that donut, this other donut, and a salad. I thought that was great. That's great because that's Christy and I getting a hold of lunch.
By the way,
But-
I love the copper tie and the
Huh?
copper inlay in the
Huh?
jacket.
Huh? Wait a minute. Wait, whoa.
Whoa! Is that some copper cufflinks?
Oh yeah.
Man.
Oh, I know. People live streaming aren't getting the full effect here. And my friend Josh.
You almost look as good as our elevator man, Ricardo. Did you see Ricardo?
No, I didn't.
You missed him. Is he not here today, Tom?
No, Ricardo's not here. It's Saturday. Ricardo's off.
Well, yeah, I forgot.
Ricardo's off.
It's Saturday.
Okay, let's get back to
I
Gilbert.
work the elevator myself. You know.
Okay.
I push it back and then I'm up.
Let's get back to Gilbert's very taxing. They did it wrong, and I told them. I said, okay, so you're in North Carolina. You work in North Carolina. You actually perform your job in North Carolina. We're sitting in these studios in North Carolina. They're supposed to withhold that money and send it to North Carolina.
Okay.
That's what they're supposed to do. I don't care what state they're headquartered out of. You're supposed to send it to the state you worked in. Here's an example, and I've got several companies right here in this county, and I've got a national company that I do tax returns for hundreds of their employees. They send their employees all over the country. All over the country. Some of these guys will work in 11, 12, 13 states. Okay? They actually have to track what state these guys work in, so they do service work. So I'm sending you, this next week you're going to, Pickens, South Carolina at this company to do this job. They're supposed to track those employees' time, withhold taxes at the South Carolina rate, and send it to the state of South Carolina. And they're supposed to do this with every state. So what happens? Some of these guys have to file 5 and 6 and 7 state tax returns.
Wow.
But the software makes it easy. I don't want to take any credit. It's not like we work so hard. The software, this is what's the saying? It's baked in the cake.
Yeah.
Because we put it in there, we allocate it, and it's a percentage of your gross income. And it works it out. You have a home state, and then you do it. And I told the person that called me from here, that person will remain nameless, because I don't want to say her name. I told her, I said, either they don't understand the law, or they're just lazy and don't want to do it. Because that's usually what it is. They don't want to do it. Because it involves getting a tax ID number in that state. It involves doing the paperwork in that state, and it involves reconciling at the end of the year in that state. But it's not that hard.
I guess my bigger question would be, Is that something Gilbert Carmona Tax Services can handle next year when
Oh.
I show up?
Oh, Gilbert Carmona Tax Services over at 704 Oak Street in Forest City, because that's the office you go to. You don't go to 226 South Trade Street in Tryon,
At the beautiful Art Deco building.
at the beautiful Art Deco building there. But when you're ready to do that, you can call 828-289-9300. That was really good, Todd. That was a great little segue right into there. Yes, no, we do those all the time. And actually, because, and I don't want to let them off the hook, it was wrong. They did not, they obviously did not, I mean, a simple Google search would tell you this.
Yep.
This isn't like complicated tax law. This is the way it works. The state you work in is the state. As a matter of fact, okay, this is the tip of an even bigger iceberg, Todd. These states right now are, this is a Gilbert Carmona prediction. Okay, we're seeing it already. I think we're going to see it even more. These states are going to start hurting for money. Why? The federal government's not giving it to them the way they were.
Yeah.
And things are going to tighten up bad. We have fewer students going to school, and Department of Education revenue was major money. We've got, I mean, look at New York begging the federal government. What state declared an emergency over immigrants? The whole reason they did that was to get more money. I mean, that's what it's about, more money from the federal government to make up the gaps in their budget. Every state, it depends on money from the federal government. If the federal government starts cutting back, and they're going to have to, they've spent money they don't have. I know they'll print more Monday, but still, they're spending money they don't have. So what's going to happen? The states are going to have to get more and more aggressive collecting money. And that's the warning, this warning I have. So the state, if you worked in legitimately worked in South Carolina, they want their taxes.
Exactly.
So they're going to get, I think they're going to get more and more aggressive. But we have a lot of people, especially right here in this part of North Carolina, well, anywhere along the state line, any state lines, we have a lot of people that work in South Carolina. They work at BMW. A lot of people take that hour drive down to Greenville, especially my Polk County clients. A lot of them will work in Landrum. A lot of them will work in Greer, Spartanburg, Greenville. So this is a normal thing that we do, where multiple states. But I've got guys like those national workers I told you about. Some of them work in 10 states, 11 states, 12 states. And so this is a normal thing. But again, I don't want to let them off the hook. They did it. It was wrong. They shouldn't have done it. I don't know. I don't know why they did it. But anyway, it's not right. And the thing that concerns me is now you're on the radar, or the thing that concerns me whenever I see this is you're on the radar with South Carolina.
Yeah.
As
Don't need to be.
well, it's not a big deal. It's not like you're going to get some kind of trouble with South Carolina. It's just one more form that you got to fill out in an already complicated
That's right.
tax world. But
Thanks so much.
oh, you're welcome. You're leaving?
Yard sales await.
Oh, you're gonna go spend that refund already, Todd? Is that what I'm hearing?
$30. $30. Tom, always good to see you, brother.
The ever cheerful.
That's right.
The ever cheerful.
Thanks, Gilbert.
Todd, you are welcome. I'm so glad you came in here. You made my morning.
Thank you.
You made my
Y'all
morning.
have a good
So
one.
are you ever going to come back on Saturday mornings?
No.
I'll bring donuts. I'll bring donuts.
No salad.
No salad. No, not at 8:30 in the morning. I'm sorry.
Things would have to be just like steaming fresh out of the the enrober.
Right on.
Oh, I got connections. I got connections over at Davis Donuts. Okay.
That's right.
Okay. I'm connected. What's your poison? You name it. Orange twist.
That's right. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you, Todd.
See you, Todd.
That was, for those of you that don't know, that was Todd, my former engineer. Now he still does.
He does Monday through Friday with Tracy.
With Tracy, does the program have a name? They just do the morning. It's just the morning. Yeah, I can't get him in here on a Saturday now anymore.
To him on from 7 to 8.
He gets from 7 to 8 in the morning. Yeah. Then he goes to his real job.
That's right. Yeah, that's what everybody says.
Then he goes to his real job. Yeah, I can't get him up. I'm surprised he was up at 8:30 this morning. Oh yeah, I can't get him in here on a Saturday. I've begged, but you know what? I found the key this morning Steaming hot, freshly glazed donuts.
That's it.
I need to talk to somebody over at Granny's.
Yeah.
I need to talk to them over there and see, because at least they're a sponsor. Let's let's go over there. Is Davis Donuts a sponsor? I need to talk to Tracy. We need to go talk to them. Listen, they don't need to advertise them things. Everybody knows about them things. They're unbelievable. As a matter of fact, I need to head on over there if there's any left. But sometimes you get it. Yeah, 8:30's late in the day for the donut crowd. They're already gone. Okay, I think we can just go home now, Tom. I think that's it. The program's over. But that's a wrap. Let's go home. Let's go get donuts. Let's go get donuts and coffee. But it's an interesting topic, though. I'm glad he came in and asked that question, because this host state tax thing is a very interesting topic, and it's very the word's not that it's ignored, but you don't have too many tax preparers that are really specialists and get into state tax returns. Now let me take that back. In California, a state like California or a state like New York, where the state tax return is as complicated, and in the case of California, more complicated than the federal tax return. I mean, they give you tax credits in California for things like, and I'm not trying to be funny, and I'm not disagreeing or agreeing, but they give you tax credits for like Save the Seals and just all this just crazy stuff that they do, and they're fine. They do what they want to do. It's their state, but their tax return is. I have done a California tax return that was as big as the federal. Actually, many California tax returns. I've got quite a few clients. My whole California clientele has really grown over the years, and then I've had people that have moved here from California, and they've referred me to family members. Just had new clients that we just wrapped up some tax returns last week for them in Northern California, which it's really interesting. You talk to people from Southern California and people from Northern California, and it's like two completely different places. It's places in the mind. It's like just completely different. It's when a lot of times I'll deal with things in a state and it's very consistent. Not there. There's a lot of difference. So, but it's complicated. So, and New York is another state that has very, very complicated tax rules. But the subject of there are very few accountants that really specialize in state returns, and they say, well, there's really not much there. And I would argue with you, yes, there is. There's a lot there, especially with businesses. And there are a lot of tax strategies at the state level. One example is, just a quick example, and I'm speaking in broad terms. I'm not trying to give anybody a tax strategy here, but bonus depreciation and Section 179 depreciation on your federal tax return is different than how it works on your North Carolina tax return. So we can do something with Section 179 and do something with bonus depreciation that reduces your federal tax by thousands of dollars, but it won't do anything for North Carolina because they don't recognize it. They have their own formula. So you have to be aware of that when you're implementing that. And there are some things that, not to get into them what they are, but there are some depreciation strategies and things that will actually increase your tax. It'll decrease your tax at the federal level, but it'll actually increase your tax at the state level. And every state's different. They have different rules, but for the most part, they're pretty consistent at what it is. But then you get states like Tennessee, Florida, Texas that have no state income tax requirement. There are others, but those are most of the ones that I deal with. I've got clients in Tennessee, I've got clients in Florida, many clients in Florida, and clients in Texas. There are no tax states. And where are a lot of people moving to, Tom? Tennessee, Florida, and Texas. Why are they moving there? Business friendly with low taxes. When's the federal government going to figure it out? I mean, low taxation works. It increases business. There was I heard a venture capitalist speak. He will not go to the Northeast anymore. He's done. And this is a venture capitalist that spends a lot of money. He's done. And his number one reason, taxes. One state is specifically taxing venture capitalists who invest in businesses at a higher rate. He said, so what are we going to do? We're not going to go there. And where are they going? The Southeast. Very, very interested in the Southeast. Why? Low taxes. Let's go ahead and take a break. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes, WCAB AM 590, FM 100.9.
Prediabetes is serious and more common than most people realize. 1 in 3 American adults has prediabetes, and more than 80% don't know they have it. Prediabetes is a serious medical condition that puts you at high risk for type 2 diabetes. But now, North Carolina residents with prediabetes can enroll in a free or low-cost national diabetes prevention program. Get started now at joinaprogram.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Hey, I'm Reba McEntire. Growing up in Oklahoma, I had big dreams of becoming a successful country music singer. But I also knew the odds were against me and that I needed an education to fall back on. Studying never got in the way of my dreams. In fact, school gave me lots of opportunities I wouldn't have had otherwise with my career. Please stay in school and try your best. You never know where a good education might take you. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
This is Gilbert Talks Taxes, WCAB AM 590, 100, FM 100.9. I'm still riding I'm on cloud 9 there, Tom, with Todd coming by this morning, Tom. That kind of made my day. Not that I'm not happy you're here. Not that I'm not happy you're my engineer. That was just a pleasant surprise. Those of you live streaming, www.wcab59.com. All my W's kind of got together there. Did I say 3 of them? Because I don't want to confuse anybody. I don't want them to go to WW. Okay, they need to go to WWW. Okay, those of you live streaming, good morning. Thank you for listening to me, and some of you that picked this up later, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. You're seeing my copper tie, Nordstrom's tie, with the blue paisley. And again, I will be we'll be posting the audio to this program at gilberttalkstaxes.com. I want to talk about deadlines. So the last deadline for those of you that extended, those of you that filed an extension before April 15th, okay, your deadline to file your tax return is October 15th. Okay, and there are some people that are really pushing the envelope and are making me very nervous. Okay, so October 15th. Now, October 15th this year falls on a Sunday, so it will be Monday, October 16th. October 16th, you have until midnight to get that tax return filed. Okay, and there are some people that just literally came in yesterday and brought us their stuff after like 30 phone calls and I don't know how many emails. They came in and brought us their stuff. But it's the same people every year. This is just what they do. This is their deadline. This is how they do it, and they're going to do it. It's like the one man said when the IRS extended deadlines during COVID, the man said, finally, they're on my schedule. So those are due. Now, we've been telling people if I can't get it by Monday the 2nd, I don't know that I'm going to be able to have it done. We're not that backed up. We do have a queue formed, though, of returns. But those of you that are my clients that haven't gotten to me yet, hurry up. Get it in there. We will be there today, by the way, from 10 to 2 at the office. It is a work day at Gilbert Carmona Financial Consultants. We will be there today at 704 Oak Street, Forest City. Nice way to tie it in, huh, Tom? At 704 Oak Street, Forest City. We will be there. If you need me, give me a call, 828-289-9300. But that is a hard deadline, October 16th. And then that's for your 1040, those of you that have not done your tax returns. And then the only other deadline that's kind of a big deadline is the November 15th deadline, okay, for not-for-profits. Those of you that file Form 990. And I say it every time, that's an important form because if you don't file your 990 if you go 3 years without filing, you could lose your 501c3 status, and you don't want to do that because reapplying for it could cost you, well, the filing fee is $600, and you have to reapply. It's not like they'll just they'll just say, oh, okay, and reinstate you. You have to fill out Form 1023 all over again, okay? And they're going to really scrutinize it because they have your old form on file. And the new one and the old one better be consistent because they're going to be looking at that. So we were at the IRS forum last month. It's hard to believe that was a month ago. It really is. It's just, this month has flown by. We were at the IRS forum and spoke to the people that work in the not-for-profit department. It's a very different department because it's not like your usual IRS department that's about collecting taxes. You file a tax return, you make a declaration, you either get a refund or you owe more money. Theirs is more conceptual because you're not for profit. So they're more looking at how your forms are filled out. Does it make sense? Are you declaring all your revenues? Are you declaring all your donations? Are you accounting for how that money got spent? So it's kind of a whole different mindset. But a very interesting department. But you don't want to miss that deadline. That is November 15th. If you filed an extension in May 15th, you have to that. And if you're behind on those tax returns, if you're a not-for-profit out there listening to me and you have not filed your tax returns, give me a phone call. We do those. Again, call me, 828-289-9300. It's very important you get compliant on that. You don't want to lose your status. And really, even if I've had one just recently came in. They're kind of winding down. They're trying to time when to close it. And I said, look, even if it's a 0, let's file one. You don't want to lose your status. You don't want a black mark on your record, before the time is right for you to close it. So that's deadlines. Now, got 15 minutes left. Last week I talked about inflation. Right, Tom? 15 minutes? I can't see the time. Oh, actually more, 16 minutes. That's an eternity in radio. 16 minutes. Talked about inflation and how inflation might actually, I have to say everything in might, could, would, possibly cost you more taxes next year, and it's because of this thing called bracket creep. You could actually get up in brackets. What's happening with inflation, what's causing people to earn more, and what happens when you earn more? You're in another bracket. As an example, so we have the brackets for 2024, and if you're a single person, the 12% tax bracket is $11,600 to $47,150. Okay, $47,150. I don't know if anybody's been noticing, or you've been out there looking for a job. Entry level now in manufacturing is $19 an hour, $18 an hour, $20 an hour, depending on the skills required for the job. I have seen companies looking for not even really skilled, semi-skilled, people that can reasonably operate some machinery. They're paying $21.50 an hour. Okay, so translate that into an annual income. $20 an hour is $45,000, $44,000, depending on, if you work any overtime. If you work a basic 40-hour week, you get some vacation pay, some sick days. All that gets factored in there. But you're looking at $45,000, $44,000, $46,000 a year. For 5-6 years ago, you would have been $30,000, $29,000. All this is a direct function of inflation. So the threshold is at $47,150. You have a married couple that works, husband and wife work just 40-hour jobs. They're making $80,000 a year. More. I'm seeing tax returns for married couples coming in at $100,000. And these are people working jobs, like W-2 jobs. These aren't self-employed business people. Making $100,000 right here in this county, jobs that a year ago, well, not a year ago, but it's because it's been a couple of years now, a job that, you know, definitely in 2019 and before, they would have been making half that. So we're seeing it. This isn't, you know, theory on you know, television. This is what we are seeing in real life. So the next tax bracket, and again, that's for single. I just picked single because it's the first line on the bracket without me getting into the full chart. But let me go back to that other chart. Give me 1 second. So, well, here, let me go to married filing jointly. Married filing jointly, your 12% tax bracket is $22,000 to $89,450. At $89,000, you go from 12% to 22%. So there's a 10% jump in your tax. 10% jump in your tax. Once your once your taxable income is figured out, you know, it's all adjusted out and you get your taxable income. So the warning that I have for people is don't take this lightly that you are just going to it's going to be same old, same old. Last year, there was a rude awakening with a lot of people when their refunds came, or their refunds, some people actually had to pay, and refunds were smaller for a lot of people. And I'm just saying it might, it could, it would, it depends. Children, of course, you know how many deductions you have, or how many tax credits you get, is going to affect all this. Right now, from what we're seeing, the tax credits are going to be flat. They are not going to give any more money than they did last year. So that is all going to stay the same. Estate tax brackets, and this is the one I'm really concerned about. Estate taxes are high anyway, but the thresholds are so small. In 2024, the break from 24% to 35% happens at $11,000. Now, this is again for an estate or a trust. So we do a lot of estate planning and a lot of trust, planning and trust tax returns, estate tax returns. But that jump is at $11,000, and it goes to 35%. And at $15,000, it goes to 37%. So the jump happens fast. And again, it's just a warning. So what do you need to do? Just make sure that your W-2, for those of you W-2 earners, just make sure that your W-2s at where you work are correct. Make sure that your dependents, I see several things happen. The dependents get older. They're no longer eligible for child tax credit or earned income tax credit. Well, at these tax brackets, you're going to phase out. By the way, the word phase out means it's when you make too much money to qualify for that credit. Because I had somebody ask me, you use the word phase out a lot. What does that mean? What that means is you making too much money to get the credit. So you're going to phase out. Again, you got a married couple making, $80,000 a year. You're phasing out of earned income tax credit. You're never going to see that again. But when you talk to your HR department, talk to people there at work, and tell them, just look at it, go over it. The thing that I see happen is the dependents get old. They no longer qualify for the credits. Remember, it's 16, that's it. And for the child tax credit, if children are in college, you can claim EIC up to 24, but up to, the year they turn 24. But again, you're phasing out of it. You're phasing out of the brackets because people are making too much money. And there's all these adjustments for inflation. Yeah, they bumped the brackets a little, but not a lot. It's not keeping up. So basically the top end of the bracket went up by $5,000. People are making more money than that. And those of you that are self-employed, just review your estimated taxes, because they might have been based on older numbers. So you just may want to take a look at it. It's just a warning I have, and I've been telling all my people that. Now, we go into tax planning mode here after October 15th, 16th this year. we start, and my calendar is already starting to fill up. October 17th, we start meeting with people to go over your tax planning, review it. Those of you that are self-employed, and I'll be talking a lot about this in the Saturdays coming up, and I'm going to be sharing some more things with you, just some tax planning. Again, just tax planning tips based on this. I got to be careful what I say, Tom, on the air, because I can't make a promise on the air that it's going to reduce your taxes when it, everybody's situation is a little different. No two people have the same tax return. So but with a little planning, you can at least get ahead of this curb. And we start doing this in October. Those of you that are self-employed, I like to start meeting with my self-employed business people for sure after Thanksgiving, because the year, we've got 11 months under our belt, and we can look at your P&L and kind of get a feel for it and see if you should be making that extra estimated tax payment. The last estimated tax payment that you make, you make them 4 times a year, April, June, September, and January. The last one's made January 15th of 2024, and that one gets posted to 2023. So should we even have to make that last payment? I don't know. We can take a look at it, or should that payment be bigger? I just met with somebody who originally we weren't going to make any estimated tax payments because he was anticipating some things to happen in his business. They didn't happen. Okay, so had a meeting, decided to go ahead and send $22,000 in, $10,000 in September to the IRS, $1,000 to North Carolina in September, and in January we're going to send another $10,000 and $1,000. Again, we do the same thing again. So we're sending $22,000 in, but that's based on meeting in real time and looking at it and seeing what should we do. So we can do that definitely, not before the end of the year. Let's look at it last week of November, first couple of weeks of December. So give me a call if you're concerned, if you want to have that reviewed. We're going to be starting those meetings after October 16th. It's good, for should you spend more money, should you buy equipment. When we talk about every year, I talk about those things that you can do. If your revenue's low, can we pick up the collections a little? Are there invoices that are out there that we can try to collect? What can we do to bring in some more revenue to get it caught up? And then on the other side is, hey, revenues are high. It looks like we're going to have a big tax bill. I'm projecting that first quarter of 2024 to be slower. What can we do? Well, you can hold off on invoicing. You can hold off on making deposits and posting your income. You can do that. You can hold off on your billing. So we can, there's that safety valve. But if we don't meet and talk about it, we don't know. Gift tax exclusion. And see, this is what is so frustrating. We know that inflation is up. I mean, the government said 7%, right? Obviously, they haven't been to Chick-fil-A lately. Now, actually, I shouldn't have said Chick-fil-A. They haven't been to any fast food restaurant. Chick-fil-A's that's just where I go. But, I mean, they haven't been to them. I mean, prices are up everywhere. I mean, everywhere. We went to one place on Thursday, and the lady said, we'll up to the counter, place an order, and the lady tells me and the food's worth it. It was great. It was wonderful. They may be listeners. I got to say that. It was great. We loved it. There was no complaints, okay? It's not their fault. They're just having to keep up with their costs. I mean, it's not like they're pocketing this money. I get it, because I do the tax return. I know their income, okay? But the ladies placed her order and stuff, and she said, it's like $37 or something. I went, oh, what did you say? It sounded like you said $37. What was that? Hold on, talking to my good ear. It's $37. I mean, it's up. I don't know how much it's up. I remember when it was 20 something. That's all I knew. And now it's up to this. When you're pushing 40, it's like, so we know inflation. Real inflation is probably more like 15 and 16%, maybe even 20. I don't know. I hear all these numbers, but you can't trust the government's numbers because they're cooked. They're cooking them down as much as they can. And if they're doing that and they're saying it's 7%, what is it? But the gift tax exclusion. So what is the gift tax exclusion? You can gift money and you don't pay tax on it. Remember, on gifting, it's not the receiver of the gift that pays the tax. It's the giver of the gift that pays the tax. People say, I want to give my granddaughter $10,000 for college. How much tax is she going to have to pay on that? She pays nothing. You can gift your granddaughter or any family member, you can gift them up to $17,000 without you paying any tax on it. Okay, and that is, by the way, $17,000 per person. So if you're a husband and a wife, you can each give that person $17,000. Typically, these are strategies used by older people that are winding down their estates, and they're trying to give away as much of it as possible. You know, why should they have to wait to inherit the money? People feel, so they want to go ahead and start giving it away, especially they wanted to help, in this case, they wanted to help their granddaughter who's starting college this year, started college this year. They wanted to give her some money to help her, so gifting. So in 23, it's $17,000, okay? In 24, the highest inflation we've had since like the 70s, in 2024, what did they raise it by? $1,000. I mean, $1,000. That to me is just ridiculous. That gifting exclusion should be way more. I mean, way, way more. But it's what they're doing, and there's just no getting around it. And you look at a lot of these other things that they've raised, it's not even keeping up with inflation. It's not even coming close. Same thing with capital gains taxes. Same story there. Dividend and long-term capital gains, of course, are at a zero rate, and then it kicks in to ordinary income. But there's a lot of rules with that. But it's definitely a time. So all of that to say, in the last 30 seconds, it's definitely a time to do tax planning and try to be ahead of the curve on a lot of this stuff. Listen, I've had a great morning today. Thank you, Tom, so much. This has been great. This is Gilbert Talks Taxes. I will be back next Saturday at 8 a.m. WCAB AM 590 FM 100.